So buckle up, get ready to be inspired, educated, and maybe even slightly amazed. And don't forget to tag us in the hashtag marketing2CONF. We can't wait to hear all about your highlights from the event. All right, folks, let's kick off the day with a bang. And what better way to start than with our first session, say bye-bye to boring and hello to bold, the future of content marketing. Have you ever wondered what it takes to stand out in the vast sea of digital content? Say goodbye to the mundane and hello to the excitement with our journey into the future of content marketing. Let's explore the world together on how marketing bold ideas and innovative strategies can transform the way we connect with audiences in the session. To take this conversation forward, please welcome our moderator, the Director of Marketing Technology, Campaign and Strategy at Cisco, and panelists for guiding us through the topic, Mr. I'm going to get this name wrong, Alp Mimiroglu. Are you here? He's not here. All right, so what do I do now? Yeah, we can wait. So how's everybody? How's Vegas treating you? Who got in just last night? Can we kill that light right there or turn it? Because I can't see that light right there, guys. Thank you. Well, while we're waiting for Alp, I'm a local Las Vegas entertainer. I mostly do improv and indie film. I was given this script 30 minutes ago, which is why you have to see me reading it, because I don't know what I'm saying. But if the people show up I'm supposed to introduce or hear, then that'll go smoothly. If not, I don't know how to move forward. I don't do stand-up, so I'm going to make you stop laughing any second now. All right, so tell me about this conference. What's it for? Okay. All right, so I'm going to be blinded by the light. All right, so first time in Vegas, let me see. Did you guys party last night? It was St. Patty's Day. We call that amateur night here in Vegas. It's St. Patty's and New Year's. Does anybody know how to get a hold of Mr. Alp? Or they can text him? You texted him? Okay, great. Oh, hi. Oh, I introduced you, but you weren't here. So here he is. And he's going to talk about stuff. So welcome. Yeah, we could do that. How many panel folks do we have right now?
Mic check.
Who's gonna talk first? Yeah.
I'll be talking first.
Testing. I've just muted over there. Is this mic's on?
So super cool to be here. For agenda, we'll be starting with intros. Then we'll be talking about the future of content marketing, what best practices are. David and Julie have a wealth of experience across many decades in many companies. And then we'll go into QA at the very end. So intros, do you want to intro yourself, David?
Sure, I'm David Gow, and when you say I have a wealth of experience, it causes me pause that maybe I've just been around a long time at this game. But so our company is Gow Media. We're in Houston, Texas, and we're a multi-platform media business. We've got some old media. We run ESPN Radio in Houston, and newer digital media, a bunch of digital content sites, including culturemap.com, sportsmap.com, innovationmap.com. And so the way we like to describe ourselves in our digital platforms is we've got multiple content categories, culture, sports, and innovation, under a common map brand. And we love the name or the brand of map because a map is a guide to things, where your guide to culture, sports, and innovation. And we also like to say that we don't address any of the nasty political discourse of the day or the difficult death or shooting on the west side of town. What we just address is the opportunity. We tap into the passions of our audiences. People are passionate about culture, sports, and innovation, and that's where we apply our focus.
My name is Julie Porter, and I'm the Chief Rocker of Front Porch Marketing, based in Dallas, Texas. We work with small businesses and mid-sized businesses, as well as nonprofits and educational institutions to make their brands rock through marketing and branding strategies. The business is 13 years old this month. I founded it myself, and we have a core team of 8, and then we bring people in and out to do different strategies, business to business and business to consumer, throughout the United States.
Nice. So where do you guys think the future of content marketing is going? Like, where is it headed? Any trends? Where do you see it headed?
Well, I think it's important with personalization. People are looking for brands to be authentic and to personalize things. So I think as we look at companies, some of clients come to us business to business in particular, just want to shoot out messages about products and services that they do and talk all about themselves. But really, I think the personalization and what's important to their audiences is going to be more and more important because there's so much clutter out there to to break through and to get people's attention. Also, corporate social responsibility, whether that's sustainability or philanthropic nonprofit ties, especially as we look at the generations that are coming up into our workforce and to our consumers, our younger consumers. They want brands that are actually giving back and that are being true to some sort of cause, that they have a purpose. So I think corporate social responsibility is something that's very important to weave into content strategy.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add, I agree with everything you said, but it is interesting. The challenge of content marketing, of course, is one, you've got to have creative, good content, and then you've got to create it consistently. But now, more so than ever, you almost have to customize it by platform or by audience reach.
Sure.
And it makes the whole effort really, it's not easy to do, right?
Right.
It's not easy to do well.
Right. Well, and I think what a lot of companies don't understand is that it's more time consuming, and it actually is, it's an investment. So if it's not just one person that can sit and spit out a bunch of content, it's having a strategy, looking at what you're trying to achieve, and then it could be a group of people. I mean, it's graphic artists, it's content creators that are looking at all the channels and making the message and the content different to personalize.
I agree that having a personalization plan is very important, and definitely corporate social responsibility has came into play. And even with AI, you still need a strong team to produce the content, to market the content, and to reach by the right channel. And, for AI, do you see AI changing content marketing in any way?
Go ahead.
I guess I'd say 2 things. One is, as we think about the need to create more content and frankly, more consistency, and then personalization and different kinds of content by platform, AI can be a great enabler. When you think about its ability, there's only so much we can all do as a team. Every team is overwhelmed, right, and working hard, and to consistently create great content and then to personalize it is a large undertaking, and there's almost so much anyone can do, but AI will enable far more. And if in fact that happens, I think we'll get to a world where we're far more personalized, and then the amount or the quantity of content coming out will be greatly increased.
I agree. And I would say one thing that currently and will happen in the future is that from what my team tells me about AI, it helps them with idea generation. So if they're stuck and they know they need to, for example, write a blog on something that's very fascinating about compliance in the financial world, just getting the ideas started and working with AI to get blog topics that are maybe not top of mind.
At our company, at Gal Media, we have these online magazines, digital content sites, and what we've long done is that we have an editor who will look out on the horizon at the big stories that are coming up, and some stories really are high end. We get to do an exclusive sit down with an executive chef. Well, that should be done by a person. But then there are lower end content elements, which is a press release comes out that Cirque du Soleil is coming to Houston. And what the editor typically has done, historically at least, is pass along that lower end story, the flipping of the press release to turn it into a story. He's turned that over to some kind of freelancer. The freelancer writes it, it comes in, the editor reviews it, and then he posts it. But of course, looking ahead, those stories we think we can do with AI. We can flip a press release, get all the basic content out of that, and of course the editor will still review it as he has with a freelancer. But this time around, it'll be an AI-generated story.
Great points. And I'm seeing AI in customer segmentation, personalizing the content, and also reducing the cost. For customer segmentation, I've started personally with out of the box, like what do my marketing cloud do? What does sales cloud do that I have versus purchasing tools? So and then getting the algorithms, the recommendations, channel activation, cross-channel orchestration, making sure I'm reaching the right person from the right channel. Email might not be the right channel for someone, so I'll go through SMS, go through sales, go through push. So getting the right channel and also personalizing it, whether it's a recommendation in the e-commerce platform for, it could be like customers like you, buy it again, forgotten item. So doing that, and I'm seeing AI in reducing cost of content, not fully, but in some written content, video content, it could do some light reductions. And David, I know you have a lot of radio media background. How have you seen audio and radio in the content space? How do you see?
So we do own ESPN Radio in Houston, and we have another radio station that we lease out. But back to AI, that's sort of interesting on this topic. I didn't think that this was going to be that our radio assets were going to be a place where we would deploy AI, but we are now. And so here's how we do it. One of our businesses is that we create sports updates, customized, localized sports updates for 700 radio stations across the country. So every morning, there are people hearing our sports updates in Morning Drive, and they're localized to their given market. So that's a lot of work to do, because what happens is about 5 people come into the building at around 11 or 12 after all the games have ended. And then if they're creating a sports update for Dallas, they're going to talk about what the Mavericks did last night.
Or Madonna getting a statue.
That's right. Yes. And so we will create a localized sports update for the Dallas radio station that we're serving. Well, those updates we do with these 5 individuals who come in the dark of the night. We now believe, and we're testing, and it sounds actually very good. We'll have AI generated, localized, customized sports updates. So in Dallas, the way we do it now is we talk about the Mavericks, and you've been listening to whatever the station is, and it sounds just like it's a local sports anchor. But now in the future, it will be an AI generated, and the voice actually sounds very lifelike.
That's smart. I didn't realize there was AI. You want to add something, Julie?
Well, I was just going to say with audio, we talked a little bit about this in our preparation, but as we look at, again, if you look at your target demographic and audiences, there are some people that are not reading anymore. So audio becomes increasingly important. And so whether it's, having the form of a blog or, snippets of content and information and translating those into, in whether it's an audiobook, it's video, but repurposing that content so you also have the audio component.
Well, so to add to audio and think about our assets in radio, the world has evolved a lot. I mean, people aren't listening to radio with the same frequency they did, and certainly the ad dollars have migrated out. But what I will make the case for radio is that we really have, some of our show hosts were influencers before influencers became a thing. And so our hosts have long had great conversion power when they offer their personal endorsements for a product. And so that's a real opportunity. The second thing that we've told all of our radio show hosts is you're no longer a radio show host. You're a multimedia content creator. So to be sure, John Granato comes in Morning Drive and he does a radio show for 3 hours, and he's creating audio content that is distributed over a radio platform. But that same audio content is available on demand via podcast. And then after he finishes that, we ask him to walk down the hall and make a video that will talk about why the Astros are going to win the World Series if they pick up Snell.
Yay.
Right? Yes. So, but we're really looking for more out of each content creator or influencer in our building, and that way we can create more messages and get to more platforms and obviously build our total audience base.
And I think that translates nicely when you think about the radio host. We think about from a business to business standpoint, or even business to consumer. It could be like your CEO, or it could be your sales force. They also have that ability to do content over multiple platforms. Like, for goodness sakes, get on LinkedIn. There's things that you can do and engage and interact. But I think as we look forward to the future of content marketing, people want the personalization, as we talked about, and also to get to know the individuals within the brand is important. So using that audio content or any kind of content, particularly on social media, to help with getting to know the leadership team, getting to know the other people on the team.
Well, to that point, in our team, so yes, I'm the CEO, and they created some content that represented me as sort of the corporate nerd. Just the guy who went around and,
What a compliment.
yeah, it was such a compliment. I don't know whether, or the corporate suit, right? That was because they're all cool sports guys at sports radio, and they've got an attitude. It's sort of like a fraternity sometimes. And then there I was. So that was their fun with me.
I love that.
I could see definitely repurposing the content across multiple channels, whether it's audio or not, it can give you more bang for your buck. And I didn't realize that AI, a good point about, Dallas, Austin, Houston, San Antonio, Vegas, all these local regions, it helps, drive more conversions at a better rate. Do the promotions work well in radio? The promotion, you said it's great for the hosts or influencers, and you could push it. Promotions in radio and audio, is that something people should look at?
Well, I think the best lever for results in audio is the endorsement of the host. And that's true in live radio. I think it's also true in podcasts, maybe even more so in podcasts, because when we think about a podcast, well, radio is passive. You turn it on and you've got what you've got. But the podcast, you're actually seeking out a particular host. And so the possibilities of conversion from that host, I think, are much better in that realm. And so we definitely look, when I'm standing in front of a friend who's advertising and wants to get into radio and believes that radio is going to work, I always encourage them to think about an endorsement campaign, because I think that's really important and will resonate with them. And then the second is I always encourage them to track results. It's amazing to me how much marketing spend can go out without any real accountability. But you can get accountability in radio. I mean, there are ways to do promo codes and other levers to track results, and obviously that's a key element to success of it.
Definitely. I guess you could have a control and a test too. So great points. And for visual and video content, where do you see visual and video content in the future of content marketing?
Well, I think for a couple of years now, we've heard people say that video is really important, especially on with your websites and driving traffic and organic search and things like that. But I think what we're seeing from business to business standpoint, our clients, particularly in some industries, whether it's financial or insurance related, they're finally coming to the game. Like like, oh, we need video, and so they're looking at doing like series of videos that tell the company story, whether it's about the culture, it's about what their ideal client is. So they're telling stories. The storytelling portion is really important. And then we're going to repurpose that not only on the website, but then take 60 to 90-second snippets, and that's the stuff that we will repurpose on websites, and then take some of the content from a written standpoint, the script from the video then can be repurposed as blogs.
I would only add to that and say, yes, we're now putting video out all the time. And what I also love about creation of video is that we've developed a pretty robust YouTube channel, and it's passive income to us. We don't have to go sell it. And, we in the media business, we have the tyranny of always selling advertisers to buy our platforms, and getting that passive income is a wonderful thing for the business.
Definitely. And for me, for visual content, I'm seeing it much more than email, web, and YouTube. There's long form content and there's short content,
Right.
TikTok, Instagram. So having that strategy for long form, short form, and being able to have a long-term personalization strategy is very important.
And I think from a video standpoint, like you said, using it in email, so having, as we know that people aren't reading as much anymore or at all, having that incorporated into those emails that are going out is really important.
Yep, and I'm seeing email still a very effective channel, but
Absolutely.
it does get lost in the shuffle. If you have a database of 100 million, it's definitely like you're a Target, a Walmart. It's going to be very effective. But if you have a million, if someone's getting 100 promo emails a day, and now their Gmail, it goes to their promotion spam filter, it could get lost in the shuffle. So you need to reach the person through the channel that's best for them.
I mean, the one thing I'd add on video, the best example we saw on one of our platforms recently, it was on our platform, culturemap.com, and it was the Houston Ballet. And I think Well, look, the ballet fandom is probably narrow and deep. It's not broad and shallow.
Right.
And one of the things they did that was really compelling is they created a video. It was a very short video, but it was a highlight of a couple of sequences of moves on stage. And it would always pop up and start playing that video when people came to the site. And it just captured your attention because it was the talent and the physicality of these performers was over the top. And this video highlighted that. And it engaged the mind and made you think about ballet when ballet may not have been top of mind. And so I think it really can be a head-turning opportunity, particularly if you can create something that's compelling and artistic and beautiful as the ballet did.
And this culture map, is it something that's like a national product? You could reach audience in Vegas, San Francisco, and New York, or is it just a Texas?
Hopefully someday. Right now, Culture Map has 5 localized sites across the 5 major cities of Texas.
Mhm.
So there's a Culture Map: Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin, San Antonio, and Houston.
Makes sense. That's super cool, the ballet example. And for personalization, what are the key things in personalization someone needs to keep in mind when building a content marketing strategy?
Well, I think we'll use the example of email marketing. A lot of times that whatever your email marketing system is, if you can go in and there's a lot of things you can automate to see what customers' behavior or clients' behavior is as you look at that, but also see it like where are they clicking the most, what is most interesting to them, where are they spending the most time. So really looking into that data, and you can't do it like hundreds of millions, right? But when you're looking at a nice broad sample of what things are, then you can take that information, and as you build the next content or you're looking at the next strategy, use what people are actually looking at and spending time on and do more of that.
Understood. And so I've seen companies, they have a dedicated personalization team, and sometimes you don't have it. So building a personalization plan is harder when you don't have
Absolutely.
20, 30 headcount funded. What I've done usually is I build out a 3-year personalization roadmap across channel recommendations, contents, cross-channel orchestration, align the tech strategy, the data strategy, see the experience I want to create, enable the end-to-end architecture, look at the gaps, and then kind of deliver on that tech vision. So having a personalization strategy drives a heavy amount of sales lift across sales, frontline workers, and all the marketing touch points. So yeah, it's
And I think as you talked about that, looking at content calendars and editorial calendars, which are the roadmaps that really drive all the different channels and the content on those channels, as well as having a message map, which tells what messages are going to what audience on what channel, is extremely important. And what we have started to do, we don't really look out even 6 months now because everything's changing. The world's changing so quickly. We are doing 3 months at a time. And so, and then we kind of the 20th of the month, we look and say, okay, is it still relevant next month? Because things change. And particularly, we're talking about what's going on in the world today. There's so many things that are happening, and our world has changed so much, and we don't know what's going to happen. So you just need to make sure that you're relevant and that you're keeping on top of things. Because if you do something like, for example, you're talking about, I'm not in this industry, but, I flew here, to be at this conference. If something happened on an airline, well, if you're talking about, how awesome all of the parts are on airline things, and that's in your email, tomorrow, it's like, well, the wheel fell off and, did something to somebody's car in the airport. So is that really relevant today, or you want to talk about something else?
yeah, I think for airlines, what makes a bad experience, the flight's delayed or they lose their bag, and yeah, kind of managing the customer experience to get those non-sticky customers in. So yeah, great point about the airlines. And for technologies, what technologies should someone think of when having a content strategy? What are key elements of a content content marketing plan? What are the technologies there?
Well, what we encourage our clients obviously to have a content management system, which is really important for what's on your website or your format of your website, and what you're trying to achieve. So a business to business might be a different format or a CMS than a consumer, because you're trying to, a lot of e-com is happening from the consumer standpoint. Also, CRM. So whatever platform, and for us, again, we look mostly at small businesses and mid-sized businesses and nonprofits. So we don't have large budgets to do, big, huge HubSpot things or Salesforce things. So finding the right things and tools from a CRM standpoint that are going to be something that you use and actually something that's going to be effective are things that we encourage our clients to do from a content standpoint.
Understood. For technology, I always found less is more, and
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
not buying more technologies, and
Absolutely.
how all the pieces kind of talk together. So it's not like, hey, one key element, let's go buy these three things, and that'll make our marketing strategy a success. It's the people you have, the strategy, and how you execute. Key elements, I mean, you just need a marketing cloud. You might need some a tool to optimize SEO and blog, and there's a social listening platform. So there's
Well,
a lot of
and analytics as you look at your your website and what's happening and what pages are people spending most time on and building a keyword strategy. I mean, Google Analytics is free. Like there's so many things that you can do from a free standpoint and utilize. So that's one tool from an analytics standpoint also to look at.
But you all are both raising an interesting point, which is there are all these technology tools, and I love your thought, less is more, because we always see the shiny new toy that we all want to go out and get. And then, of course, we are capturing so much more data than we ever did. The work that we're always struggling with is, okay, we get all this data, but how do we act on it? How do we capitalize on it? And that's still something we're developing and doing and trying to do better.
Yep, definitely beyond having just like a CDP or customer data platform. What's the first party data strategy? What's the second party data strategy? And how do you connect all the systems together to drive a more personalized experience? And in content, it's often you could say spend 3,000, 10,000 on a piece of content, and you'll see people, they spend zero on distribution, zero on marketing. It's just they just post it on social. What's important when thinking of, you have an amazing piece of content. How does someone amplify it? How do you drive distribution and get eyeballs on that high piece of content?
Well, I would say before you develop that fabulous piece of content, you should know what you're going to do with it. I think a lot of times what happens is that either the CEO or maybe a head of marketing or somebody, a COO has a great idea and they want to do, for example, they want to do from an outdoor manufacturer of camping equipment. They have a great idea to do this. We're going to get all these bird sounds and have people recognize the bird sounds and do these videos. And we're like, okay, that's a great idea. And that is unique. Nobody else is doing that in your space. But what are we trying to accomplish? So always kind of keeping your mind on what's the goal, what's the strategy, and then come back to that. Okay, then, this is great. And it's going to meet all those things. Now, what are we going to do with it? Because there's so many things that you can do, but it depends on what you're trying to achieve. So always going back to the goal is important.
Understood. Yeah. For me, in distribution, it's kind of understanding what truly is driving sales lift or is incremental. So having that control and a test, working with finance, working with data science, investing 80% of the effort where 80% of the value is coming from,
Yes.
and turning off what's not working. So for distribution, if it's giving sales lift, put more money there. If it's not driving value, shut it down.
But also, I would say you need to make sure you give it enough time before you make that decision. So if you can't just go like 1 month in of one thing and say, oh, it's not working, because that's not realistic. We usually, there's certain things that you look at in certain time periods for certain social networks, email marketing, and other initiatives. You just have to give it time to make sure before you pull the plug, I would say.
Understood. And definitely having the right marketing resource management of, aligned with finance.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, and we double down on things that are working. So it's sort of, we'll post a piece of content out on Facebook, and if it turns out that it's really resonating for our audiences, we'll then pay to boost it to get in front of a like, kind, and quality audience, a lookalike audience. So if it's really working for one demo or one particular class of people, we're going to push it out in front of them to hopefully create more click-throughs back and ultimately turn those people who may not have known about Culture Map into consistent visitors and consumers of the content.
That's a good point.
Interesting. Great point. And attention spans are decreasing this age as people are bombarded from all channels, all mediums. What can someone do to keep their marketing engaging with decreasing attention spans?
Well, and I read recently a Nielsen report that adult spends 11 hours on content a day. an average. So that is a problem. And that is something that's an opportunity too, though, as marketing people and creative people, we can find and figure that out. So I think it's important to um, be consistent, be relevant, be engaging, and tell stories. So I think you can and know your audience, and you aren't necessarily your audience, which is a problem we always come across when we're working with clients, is that they want to make decisions. I'm like, well, that's not what your client thinks. But I think is if you're relevant and consistent and purposeful, I think that you can still be successful, because a lot of people, depending on the size, you're not talking to the universe. So you want to find your audience and what resonates with them. And so if you're being engaging and purposeful and consistent, I think that you can be successful.
Well, the short attention spans are really an issue now, and something we all have to acknowledge. It's interesting, in our content business, we've really shortened the length of our articles. They're all being read on mobile, and it's more about quantity than it is depth and quality. And I don't want to toss out quality, because our writers would say they're writing with great aplomb, and I think they are, but they have to write it in really tight formats, really short. It's surprising to me how short these articles are. I had a friend who bought Texas Monthly, which is a great monthly magazine in Texas. Wonderful brand, long-standing, iconic magazine in the state. And the struggle, of course, was the DNA of Texas Monthly was to create a monthly print publication, cover statewide content, and primarily it was long-form journalism. And as he proceeded into it, after he bought it a few years back, he said that's exactly what the world won't take anymore. Everybody wants more local content. They want shorter form, not long form journalism. They want shorter form information and fact-based storytelling, and they want it on a digital platform. So he had to completely redesign and reinvent that company under a great brand. Right. But it's just illustrative of the problem of ever shortening attention spans.
Definitely, and I've seen the same thing for articles and blogs. And when designing an inbound strategy, when you go beyond 1,000 words for the blog post, you go to like 3,000, 4,000. There's a major drop off after 500,000 for the article. So being able to have that aligned strategy across writers, product marketing, SEO, and across distribution to really engage is important. Otherwise, you're going to write something 5,000-6,000 words, a white paper. It's not going to get viewed. It's going to be gated behind the wall. And I'm finding for high value content, you gate that, and for more salesy content, you leave that not gated in website.
Well, just to add, as I'm thinking about it, something that illustrates this point about shortening attention spans. If you go to the New York Times and you open it up and you're looking online and you're thinking about reading an article, it will tell you this is a 4-minute read or this is an 8-minute read. So they're almost at the beginning saying this is the investment required for you to consume this content. And I think it's a way the New York Times is basically saying to all of its readers who have shortening attention spans, we recognize that you're not going to invest a whole lot of time in reading our content, but we're going to give it to you in this short window. So come on in. This is what you have to invest to get to it.
And like you have 2 minutes, in 6 seconds, you can read this article. But we're seeing that not just the New York Times, but all publications and online magazines and blogs that have that. And speaking of time, is anybody our timekeeper? Because we are on time. Okay. I forgot you're over there. Thank you.
I was waiting for an umbrella
to
pull us off.
Okay, I'm like, here we are. I'm having a blast. Yeah. Thanks, but okay. Well, we wanted to spend some time with question and answer, right?
Yeah, definitely. We're gonna get there in a couple of minutes. So lots of great points across AI, content marketing, personalization, marketing, reaching the right audience the right way. What are some takeaways for the audience? Any takeaways from the audience on that they should think of?
I mean, looking back at the last few years, we've clearly seen far more content creation. People are creating more content in different types of media, audio, written, and video than they've ever created before. So much more creativity, to be sure. And then the complexity of all these different platforms and the different audiences behind those platforms. So to me, there are more variables in play, more more degrees of complexity that we've experienced over the last few years. Now you throw AI into that. And I think what AI, at the very least, is going to do is going to increase the quantity of content that gets created because we can make it more efficiently and maybe even more creatively. We'll see.
Right.
And that will mean that there'll be so much more content. And I almost wonder when we think about these platforms through which all content is pushed, the pipes, if you will, that gets you to an audience, are they going to get overwhelmed by increasing amounts of content that's generated by AI? Because if our shop, Culture Map Houston creates 7 to 10 articles a day, but if it goes to 15 or 20 and all of our competition increases their content, and that's on the media side, and then of course in the marketing side, all these parties who are creating their own great content to get out to their audiences and market their product, that too will increase in quantity. So the push of more content through these pipes will be fascinating to watch because I think there's going to be a sea of new content coming through AI.
Absolutely. I would agree. And I think it's important to also go back to having a plan. So no matter what you do, to make sure that you know who you're trying to target, what are your goals, what are your messages, what's your competition doing, and then looking at the strategies and tactics that go back to that, because content marketing is one strategy within your marketing or branding plan. So remembering that that is just one thing, that's not, it can't go off on its little silo and do itself. So starting with a plan, and once you have that plan, make sure you're measuring what you're doing as frequent as you can. For us, most clients are good with monthly, but we go in weekly to see how things are performing and to make sure that there's nothing. And this is from an organic standpoint and an inbound standpoint. This doesn't have to do with the advertising and all of that with social media and Google ad, and that's a whole different thing. But inbound, organic, just making sure that you're measuring and you're staying on message and that you have your content calendar, your editorial calendar that you're working from, and that you're always looking at that and making a change if you need to, or doing more of whatever's successful. So starting with a plan and measuring that.
This is a little off topic, but it's been rolling around in my head. It's related to all this and maybe illustrative and would have applications we think about it. So I recently went and heard somebody talk about how he's using AI to enable people to create customized soundtracks for themselves when they're playing, say, a video game. And look, I don't play a lot of video games, but as you know, in video games, you might get to be some kind of undercover agent going into a dangerous place and freeing some hostage, shooting all the people as you do. Well, when James Bond does that, he's got his own personalized soundtrack, does he not? Well, of course, what this tool does is it enables the player to go and say, I want to create my soundtrack. I want lots of brass. I want it to be fast-paced. I want to bring drums in at the highlights or the climax of the story. And you get a personalized soundtrack for when you're playing video games. And I think looking ahead, those kinds of opportunities for deep personalization down to the very individual are really exciting and will be very engaging to people. And this is just one example with video games.
I agree. Definitely having that personalization strategy at a one-to-one level, one-to-few, and one-to-many. So having that personalization plan that's beyond the marketing plan can help achieve more sales lift. AI is not going to eliminate writers and people producing the videos. It's going to work hand in hand to produce better content. And having the right measurement design to produce content tell if it's truly incremental will help amplify things. And when you build out a content marketing strategy, think of all the channels: audio, video, beyond articles, shorts, long form. What's the best way to reach the person? What's the best channel for them? Beyond, let's send emails for every piece of content. Beyond the website, how can I reach that person? And distribution is very important. If you're going to spend a lot of money building a high quality piece of content, you have to have the right distribution strategy to have it impact the marketing top line. Any final things on this before we transition to questions?
I think so.
We'll take questions now from the audience. What questions do you have on content marketing? Anything that David or Julie said?
Or anything that we didn't talk about that you want to talk about?
Can we get your name and company and
That's a great thing to bring up that we didn't talk about, but yes, that is happening. That is a thing. And so for us, yes, all of our writers do go through that, and we've added an extra editing standpoint, extra editing set of eyes to go through and read that. Because even when we do come up with content that our clients are looking at for their blog or whatever, we have had their recently a client say, well, this looks like it was generated by AI. I want it to be personal. I'm like, well, actually it is really personal and it was tailored too. But now that he's hearing that, that's kind of what he's thinking he's reading. So I think it's important that, yes, I mean, it can't just be have it, written, do AI does it and then go post it or go do whatever. There's got to be somebody, if not two people, looking at and reading and double checking that the information is correct.
But what's interesting, and this taps into the whole sort of what is going to be the social impact of AI? How will we all live? And well, I mean, I'm not to the point of iRobot where we're all going to be taken over, but the there are all kinds of things happening that might have real societal impact. I mean, looking back, this is not a new feature of AI, but when I go to a general website that's an aggregator of content, even if I go to yahoo.com, its homepage, they serve me up the same kinds of stories every day. If I'm a conservative, they serve me conservative stories. If I'm a liberal, they serve me liberal stories. So I really don't see the other perspective the way I might have 20 years ago. And those are AI-driven formulas that are knowing what I click on and feeding me what they think I want to continually hear. And I think the isolation or the narrowing of our perspectives that is happening through this really has long-term consequences and has led to a bit of a fractionizing of the whole of our society. We are more split than we ever have been, and I think because we are not seeing other sides of any point of view we have.
And I think that is a stellar point to bring up. And I think that so front porch marketing is about real conversations on the front porch, and obviously we're based in Dallas, Texas. So I have to tell you, there's a song, a country music song, and I don't know who sings it, but it says it's good if good news sold. We'd be a lot less left and a lot less right. And so it's about having looking at all perspectives. And I think what and the world today and how it's kind of it's kind of people are polarized and not so happy, and we can be together and know perspectives, but I think maybe that's helping create barriers that we don't necessarily need in our society.
And then you add that to your point, which is all this content might get created and might not even be filtered. And so we turn an AI engine loose to come forth with a conservative, harsh, difficult perspective for mainstream America, and it just perpetuates, and it's going to get served up, and it's really, to me, it does create pause on our ability to stay united.
So bring the house up for us, Alp.
Bring the house
We
up.
need to lift us up.
I see. So for AI, for me, I found it to be an iterative process of you just turn it on. It's you have to reiterate it. So I've been working with data science, working with the tech stack that we have that does AI to iterate it. So it's not, we turn it on, it doesn't work as we expect, and it creates tiny frictions in the customer experience across marketing, sales, and the web. So it's been an ongoing process of improving and iterating. You said.
I said to bring it up. We were getting kind of deep.
She was worried that I was taking us down to the end of the world conversation.
Happy. Go back to country music.
Question in the back?
Right. Yes. So I would, there's two examples that I have. One, it's the Grant Halliburton Foundation, which is mental health for youth, and it is strictly in North Texas. And so, being hyper local, and also finding the topics of bringing, because obviously anxiety, depression, mental health is, in our country is the worst it's ever been. It's an epidemic. So coming up with statistics around mental health, resources around mental health, real life stories about people who are having, we're trying to demystify, the whole thing about talking about depression and anxiety. And so posting quotes about hope get really like outrageous. But then you also take it and I'd love to talk to you further about this because I could just talk about this. And we look at certain things because they're talking to, vast audiences. And there's certain things on, whether it's Black History Month or, um, you know, transgender or whatever that we're seeing, that we see things happening on social channels when certain things are posted. So I'd love to talk to you more about that. And I think video has been really great for them. We have not done as much as we could, but I think there's a way to crack that nut for sure. And then also I was going to say sustainability. That's also another thing from a corporate standpoint. If you can walk the talk and really talk about, zero emissions or whether it's, repurposing or upcycling or whatever it is, and you can have statistics and you can show the pictures and your team can talk about how, all of that is important to them. I think can be done and be done well. And we're seeing it work.
One that's about to come, it's a project in Houston. I'm close to them, but it's the Habitat for Humanity. And of course, they do wonderful work. And in the abstract, everybody knows, or I knew in the abstract, that volunteers can go out and in short order basically construct the frame of a house, and then somebody gets housing that did not have housing. It's a wonderful thing, and we all know it in the abstract. But what they're doing right now is they're creating different videos with different areas of focus. One is a video that to attract volunteers to come out and build, and they show how easy it is and how quickly even somebody who is not a handyman like me, I can go out and make a mark, and by the end of the day, actually have done something really exciting, which is build a home for somebody. And that's one thing to create enthusiasm among volunteers. But the second category of video they're doing is a video chronicling the narratives of the people who get to
Right.
go and live in that house. And that's another wonderful message. You see a before and after of their living environment, which is incredibly uplifting. And then the third video front, different kind of message, is the efficiency of their nonprofit, how far any donations go to, and so from almost a business perspective, the ROI on every dollar
And
given
transparency.
and the transparency of it. You're right. And you put those three different messages, and you take it from the abstract down to real people with real work, volunteers doing meaningful things. And I think it does move the needle, or will move the needle, for Habitat for Humanity.
For nonprofit, I think you need to have a unique messaging, unique point of view. It can't just be the pain or that. It has to be something that breaks the barrier out of the other 50 nonprofits, competing for the same voice. So I think it's one, breaking the sound barrier there. It's a little harder because you don't have a corporate comms team, a PR team. It's not like spending tens of millions to push it out. So I think it starts with the message, getting a unique message. Sending out to the audience that compels to drive the action to change the point of view or the perception. One case study I saw on this was the Blue Ocean strategy. The charity focused on laughter, happiness, people wearing like these red noses, and they were able to raise, tens of millions versus other charities. They were focusing on the pain or the hurt the person was going in for the money they were trying to raise in the nonprofit. Yep. Can we get your name and
Well, okay.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I think for, as you said, and it's, top of mind for me. So I am a mother. I'm married and have 2 kids. My son is 22 years old and is in college in Rollins College in Winter Park, Florida, which is outside of Orlando. And we were talking about, he's like, at the conference, and he's like, Mom, you need a new picture. Your picture looks like it's AI driven because it was so old. And I was like, yeah, it was before your sister was born. I was like, I need to get a new picture. But looking at what they're doing, obviously with different channels are affecting, have their attention. They're being forced to be on LinkedIn because they're, either their college or their employers are telling them to be. But also with like TikTok, obviously is something that's highly and YouTube, especially, I mean, my daughter is like all over, like when we manage it very strictly. But I think those channels are important, but also when we go back to messaging and what that looks like, again, it's important with the purpose. It's different from when, you know, I was that age when it was like we wanted to make most money and we didn't care and we'd work 80 hours and, you just get it done. That is not that. So you need to know the purpose, what's going to drive them, and transparency. And they want to have some sort of cause to be aligned with too. I think that's important. Does that answer your question?
Uh,
Because you said down there with
so-
Georgia, and I was like, where are we again today? Okay, is it
So-
down there?
so-
I got
so-
totally distracted geographically.
So I think for marketing to the younger audience, say is Gen Z, you might not find them on LinkedIn or some platform. So it might be TikTok, Snapchat, influencers, and having the right content strategy across TikTok, Snapchat, influencers, the right advertising strategy, the right messaging and positioning. So I think it's doing that and pushing out a unique digital strategy. So I think that's for reaching the younger audience. They might not be on LinkedIn, but might be Snapchat, TikTok.
Absolutely. And I think that was a good point that also made me think of, for us, the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, US News and World Reports, like all those things were things that we read, and those were like our Bibles, and like that was journalism. And now when you look at the younger generations, that's not that's not news to them. That's fake news. And whoever's posting the news video about whatever, that's the real news. And so you have to be careful and also realize that that's where they think their news sources are, which is
Go ahead.
crazy.
5 minutes. Okay. We got one question. You want to ask something, David?
Well, I was just going to say it's sort of interesting to hear you talk about the New York Times. I saw this recent article, and it was fascinating and accurate in that it wasn't that long ago, people would open up the New York Times, or they would even consume the website. But and certainly a population still does, but they were consuming the New York Times. Now, as the language was, it's a bit that the New York Times has been dismembered. Certain articles are sort of pulled out and posted in places on platforms, and people will read the article, but not really the New York Times. They see the content, and if it's a topic they want, they're buying the topic or the content, but they're not really buying the whole of what the New York Times offers. So it dismembers the brand. It probably weakens the journalistic integrity because it's now just a bunch of articles spread out, and it's standing relative to other articles that have been pushed out from other sources, lesser known sources than the New York Times, maybe even an AI source. They're now competing. And so that's a really intriguing phenomenon as we look ahead.
Great points. One last question, if you're still interested, you get your name and a little bit about you.
Well, thank you.
So I think one to measure success, it starts with statistics and math. You have a control and a test, an A and a B. So one person gets the content and I don't. So you're able to tell the difference between purchases. So like a diff and diff. So I could tell if there's a difference in parallel trends. So I could remove seasonality. And then optimizing there, making sure the customer segmentation doesn't have any biases. So making sure it's not a simple random test. So I think it's basic incrementality, having the right measurement design. Beyond, let's go by a dashboard tool and look at the dashboards.
Absolutely.
So I think it's partnering with finance, data science, analytics to say if there's one key thing we want to test, person A gets the promo, person B doesn't, and now we're able to tell if there's a difference in purchases.
And it's different, whether you're a nonprofit, a small business, mid-sized business, or large corporation, because those answers would all be different, right? Because you have the resources to have some tools like our clients, and most of them don't have. I mean, they have a finance manager, not even a CFO. So the data that we get is from the CEO when he can pull the things he can. So looking at, and we do believe in fewer, deeper initiatives and channels and things like that, but we're going in and looking at whatever the network is or email marketing and actually using those tools, whether it be MailChimp, and say, okay, we send out this monthly newsletter. How many people unsubscribed? How many people bounced? Where are they clicking? How long are they spending on those pages that they're going to? So looking at those and making sure that we're either flat or increasing, and looking at social networks and agreeing upon what's important to our audience and to our clients to measure. Like for example, LinkedIn. One example would be making sure you're getting an increase in following, even if it's organic versus if you're not doing any paid, of at least 1%. Following per month, and then what kind of messages are resonating, because you can look at the content and how many eyeballs you're getting on the content on LinkedIn. It shows you all the analytics. So using those things and just doing a quick report monthly and benchmarking. So that's with LinkedIn, social networks. Obviously, Meta has its own thing. And email marketing. That's the most, and Google Analytics to see what's going on with the pages and are we converting, and are we getting lots of drops, which is not a good thing. So using Google Analytics too, or some kind of basic tools.
Lots of great points. I also think it's about thinking about the counterfactual, what truly caused the purchase or the action. Just because someone clicked or submitted a form and then they purchased, doesn't mean that caused it. If they were gonna, in the B audience, if they were gonna purchase without it, what caused it? Was it the sales rep? Was it the website? Was it a referral? Was it an event? So thinking about the counterfactual, having A and B, control and a test, and getting deep down what content is really causing it, what sales touch points really causing, and then you could think of, should I keep investing? What content's really working? So I think
that also, what sales and what's happening with the conversion, but I think also the veto vote, because what we're seeing, especially with small businesses, is that they're getting all the way to the sale and they're not getting it. Why are they not getting it? So is it something that's happening on the website that the website, is antiquated? Or is there a voice that's not happening, or some sort of connection that's not happening, or communication that's not happening? So why aren't they buying?
Great points. Any things on David?
Well, I guess the only thing I might add, first of all, it's interesting listening to you all think about all that data that is now available that wasn't available
for sure.
5-10 years ago.
No.
The data is amazing. And then the second is, you guys were very focused on conversion and sale for due reason. But upstream of that, there's brand building. And it's interesting, I think with all the data we have and the ability to look at conversion and to try to monetize our efforts in very short order, the art of brand building can get lost.
It can.
We might be just satisfied if we're getting quick conversions, but the long-term viability of the brand and the representation of the brand shouldn't get lost in that.
No, that's paramount.
And so it starts there. Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely. Yep. And there's going to be a great panel on that on Wednesday afternoon, so come to that.
Panel, any last second thoughts?
I've been told I'm moderating.
Do we have any closing statements today from the panel?
We got one.
We have
One more.
This is our right here.
Closing statement.
The data lens in your company? Where does data fit in the C-suite? Are you leaving it up to your chief technology officer, who is really in charge of infrastructure and plumbing? And how is data being used for all the different business units? Who is actually owning that lens? Why hasn't it gotten to the C-suite yet? Why is everyone just taking a piece of it and nobody actually owning the entire way that data interacts from inputs to outputs, from non-technical audiences all the way to the C-suite, where is data going to live at the top so that it can be a more cohesive output? And also, where is data coming into corporate social responsibility?
Right.
Why are we not including data ethics and governance in our CSR? Where is that layer? That is the layer that's driving every conversation. And everyone's like, what do we do with all this data? And yet, there's no real chief data officer, chief innovation officer, chief metrics officer. Where is the person that owns the data that makes it relevant for all the business units so that you guys can focus on what you do best? Sales, ops, marketing. Who owns the data?
It's a great question.
It is a great question, and I think you could probably answer it better than I can. But I just want to say, from a CSR standpoint in the data, I think I think that there are some companies doing a very good job at using data with CSR, and when it comes to mind, it's nonprofits in particular, as well as manufacturing companies that are affecting the environment, whether it's building products or building materials. I think they're doing a really great job. So go ahead.
And panel, you also did a really great job tonight. Any last second thoughts
He
before we move
No.
on?
I think we'll take that offline, but that's a great question. I think yeah.
One more thought. Yeah, you're good.
No, just
30 seconds.
So I think you need to have the right cross-functional alignment. I mean, each company is going to have different variants of who owns it. So I think it's how you partner, how you have aligned priorities, business outcomes, metrics, projects. So I think it's starting with alignment, and then who owns it's going to vary company to company. It's not going to plug and play, but it's definitely having that clear RACI roles and responsibilities, right cross-functional alignment, so that the data doesn't get mixed between the teams. So I mean, it could be the CIO, the CMO, someone else. It could vary, but that's a great question. That
It should be its own panel, and I don't think it should live with the CFO. Oh, that's my final thought.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for our amazing panel. That was very informative. I learned a lot. Grandma used to say it's like throwing mud on a fence. Some of it stick and some of it don't.